Judith Maria and welcome to SCA Global News. From the news report that reveals the gruesome attacks on Christians in Nigeria in the first 7 months of 2025 to the Feast of Assumption celebrated in Vietnam, we have many stories to cover. A report published on August 10th by the International Society of Civil Liberties and Rule of Law reveals that in the first 7 months of 2025, jihadist groups were responsible for the deaths of 787 Christians across Nigeria. During the same time frame, around 7,800 Christians were forcibly abducted, underscoring the scale of targeted religious violence in the country. The data indicates that an average of 30 Christians were killed each day, reflecting a deeply alarming pattern of persecution. A new report released on August 10th by International Society of Civil Liberties and Rule of Law, also known as Inter-Society, has revealed that in the first 7 months of 2025, jihadist groups killed 7,187 Christians in various parts of Nigeria. In addition to that, around 7,800 people in West Africa country were violently seized and abducted for being Christians in the same period. On an average, 30 Christians were killed each single day in the country. According to the report, the surge in the brutal and unchecked massacre of defenseless Christians in Nigeria has been driven by the growing presence of jihadist Islamic terror groups which have been making unopposed incursions into the country since 2017. Jihadist groups in Nigeria are jointly operating under the leadership of jihadist Fulani herdsmen as well as the Alliance of Jihad in Nigeria, formed since June 2020 in Niger State. Benue State witnessed the most number of deaths in the first 220 days of 2025, with more than 1,100 deaths, including the Yelewata massacre of June that led to the death of 280 Christians and the April Sankera massacre. Plateau State ranks the second with approximately 806 deaths, followed by South Kaduna with over 620 deaths, and Nigeria's Igboland Southeast ranking fourth in position. Niger State has been highlighted in the Inter-Society report as one of the worst affected regions, with an estimated 605 Christian deaths. The report details widespread atrocities in the state, including frequent abductions, killings, torture, disappearances, forced marriage, sexual violence, mass displacement, forced migration, and coerced Islamic conversions. According to the report, Niger State recorded the highest number of anti-Christian abductions and killings in northern Nigeria and is currently identified as the headquarters of the Alliance of Islamic Jihad in Nigeria. The Nigerian military has also been linked to at least 410 Christian deaths, primarily in southeast. According to the report, the deaths reportedly resulted from indiscriminate abductions, extrajudicial killings, and enforced disappearances, often carried out under the disguise of false labeling, mass criminalization, and ethno-religious profiling of people from the southeast since the start of the year. Additionally, the rise in Christian abductions nationwide has been largely attributed to a sharp increase in targeting Southeasterners, Nigeria's most mobile population, as well as a smaller number of North-Southeastern victims. According to the Inter-Society official Emeka Umegbalasi, Nigeria being designated as a country of particular concern by the US and other countries is a welcome but an overdue step. He wants them to punish the alleged supporters of these groups, especially those in influential positions, by denying them access to the countries that value religious freedom. In a solemn and uncommon expression of faith and tradition, the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies held a ceremonial session on Tuesday to receive the pilgrim image of Saint Michael the Archangel, which arrived from the sanctuary on Mount Gargano, Italy. The event, taking place in the Ulysses Gourmetis Plenary, brought together lawmakers, military officials, and religious leaders in a spiritually significant gathering. In a rare and solemn display of faith and tradition, the Brazilian Chamber of Deputies hosted a ceremonial session on Tuesday to welcome the pilgrim image of Saint Michael the Archangel brought from his sanctuary on Mount Gargano, Italy. The event, held in the Ulysses Gourmetis Plenary, drew religious leaders, military representatives, and lawmakers for a gathering rich in spiritual symbolism. The session began with a formal entrance procession featuring the statues of Saint Saint Michael and Our Lady of Aparecida, Brazil's patroness. During the ceremony, Saint Michael was crowned and symbolically entrusted as a spiritual commander of Brazil, underscoring his role as a celestial protector in the Christian tradition. Presided over by Congresswoman Simone Marquetto, the event included prayers, liturgical acts, and renewal of the title of Our Lady of Aparecida as Generalissima of the Armed Forces. A ceremonial sword was presented to Saint Michael as a sign of spiritual defense, and the Brazilian Air Force conferred a Medal of High Honor upon the Archangel, accepted on his behalf by members of the Husted Institute, a Catholic organization involved in the event's coordination. Bishop Dever Arujo da Fonseca led the consecration rites, emphasizing Saint Michael's role in spiritual warfare and protection of the nation. In a notable moment, Congresswoman Marquetto also announced her intention to introduce a bill designating September 29th as the National Saint Michael's Day, aligning with the Catholic Church's traditional feast of the Archangel. The ceremony concluded with the recitation of the Rosary on the chamber floor, marking a unique intercession of the religious devotion and legislative space in the Brazil's capital. As all eyes are on the Russian-American bilateral talks, US President Donald Trump thinks he can pull off the deal. During a press conference in Alaska, Trump expressed optimism that Putin would be swayed into agreeing a deal with the Ukrainians, ending the 3-year war.
Ahead of the much-anticipated Trump-Putin summit in Alaska, President Donald Trump, speaking during a special Oval Office briefing, voiced optimism about persuading Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire deal. Before departing for Anchorage, Trump said he hoped the talks would pave the way for future meetings, including one with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. The high-stakes meeting, expected to influence the course of the conflict in Eastern Europe, will feature a U.S. delegation led by Trump, who plans to press Putin on ending hostilities. The summit is scheduled to begin at 11:30 a.m. local time at Joint Base Almendorf-Richardson in Anchorage. Trump is also pushing for Zelensky's participation, fulfilling a commitment he made to European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen during a Zoom call yesterday. In that conversation, Trump assured European leaders that Russia's demand for a land swap was off the table. In addition to a ceasefire negotiations, Moscow will raise objections to recently imposed sanctions on Russian oil exports, which came into effect last week. Russia's delegation will include only a handful of Putin's top aides, among them Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Defense Minister Andrei Belousov. Hours before the talks, the Kremlin issued a brief statement outlining the meeting's agenda.
As Washington, D.C. is experiencing a spate of criminal activities, President Donald Trump ordered 800 National Guard members to collaborate with the city's police department to maintain law and order. The dramatic takeover of the city comes after President Trump stated that Washington, D.C. experiences a worse crime rate than any major metropolitan city in the country.
Amidst the growing wave of crime in the nation's capital, American President Donald Trump issued an order urging the National Guard to take over the policing of Washington, D.C. In a statement issued by the Pentagon on Thursday, President Trump ordered the deployment of 800 National Guard members and Army personnel in the nation's capital. Pentagon Press Secretary Kingsley Wilson told journalists in a press conference that the deployed soldiers would assist the D.C. Metropolitan Police in combating the growing crime epidemic, which has afflicted the city for some time. President Trump, who ordered the dramatic takeover of the national capital, vowed to take the nation back and criticized the ineffectiveness of Washington city officials in countering the growing crime in the city. This is not the first time a president has ordered the military takeover of national city, as U.S. President Lyndon Johnson deployed National Guard troops in the context of race riots that plagued the city at that time.
Catholic leaders renew calls to abolish the death penalty in the United States on August 14th, the feast of St. Maximilian Kolbe. Speaking to Vatican News, Chrisanne Vaillancourt-Murphy of the Catholic Mobilizing Network said that while executions have increased this year, declining public support and fewer new death sentences reveal that capital punishment is already in long-term decline.
On August the 14th, the feast of St. Maximilian Kolbe, Catholics in the United States highlighted their campaign to abolish the death penalty. In a conversation with Vatican News, Chrisanne Vaillancourt-Murphy, executive director of the Catholic Mobilizing Network, said that despite recent increases in executions, public opinion and sentencing trends point toward eventual abolition. According to Murphy, 28 people have been executed in 10 states so far in 2025, compared with 25 in all of 2024, with 4 more executions planned for the coming month. Many of these cases, she noted, involved convictions from decades ago under laws no longer in effect. She added that new death sentences remained rare, marking a significant decline from last year. National polls show support for capital punishment at its lowest level in decades, with younger Americans far less likely to favor it than older generations. Murphy cited Catholic teaching, particularly Pope Francis's 2018 revision of the Catechism, declaring the death penalty inadmissible, as a key influence in shifting attitudes, especially among weekly mass goers. She expressed hope that the intercession of St. Maximilian Kolbe, who sacrificed his life at Auschwitz in 1941, would inspire continued progress toward ending state-sanctioned death in the U.S.
In Vietnam, the Feast of Assumption is a vibrant public celebration blending Catholic faith, tradition, and national pride. Though Catholics make up less than 8% of the population, streets on August 15 will be filled with music, flowers, and processions honoring Mary. UCA News quoted that this devotion reflects centuries-old history and a uniquely Vietnamese expression of faith.
Vietnamese Catholics mark the August 15 Feast of the Assumption with processions, music, and floral offerings nationwide. According to News, the celebrations drew both Catholics and non-Catholics, turning the solemnity into a vibrant cultural event that blends faith, tradition, and community spirit. Marian devotion in Vietnam dates back to the 16th century, shaping into a distinct tradition after the reported 1798 apparition of Mary in Lavang, where Catholics sought refuge from persecution. This event became a cornerstone of national Catholic identity. In 1961, bishops consecrated the nation to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, reinforcing her role as a national protector in times of hardship. Parishes blend Ao-Dai attire, folk melodies, floral dances, and incense processions, described as both religious and cultural celebrations. Major pilgrimage sites such as Lavang, Ta Pao, and Tra Kieu attract thousands of pilgrims from across the country. Church leaders said such traditions keep Catholic life visible and vibrant in a secularizing world. And News noted, the Assumption here symbolizes hope, unity, and a deep bond between faith and Vietnamese culture.
That's all for today. Until we meet again, God bless and thank you.